Covenant. Oh boy, where do I get started? How about the beginning? My first exposure to this film was a trailer featured on Facebook. It looked rather meh to me then, and then I started spawning a lot of reviews on YouTube discussing the issues in the film, and boy did it sound like a massively rage-inducing movie. Eventually, after my initial reminder of the film, after watching another sci-fi space alien film called Life, which I also did a video on, I figured I would do one for Alien Covenant as well, which required me actually watching the film. So, against my better judgment, I was forced to do so, otherwise I would have people in the comments tell me I cannot judge it because I haven't seen it. Well, now I have, you negative Nancys, and I have a right to express my feelings. Given how I covered the last film, this part will be the same. Plot first, and my final thoughts. Of course, seeing as the film was a massive wreck in storytelling anyway, and it had way too many characters in it for the short amount of time it had, I cannot do the entire film in any specific order. Otherwise, I'll do my best, but I will very likely cover a few things before their actual encounters in the film to save my brain some major headaches. If you haven't seen the film, major spoilers ahead, so you can watch the video just as is or watch the film and then come back afterward. It's up to you. We begin. We begin with a flashback to when David the robot from Prometheus first came online. He talks to Wayland and is ordered to play the piano, which he does. Then he gives himself a name and pours Wayland tea. While this goes on, they discuss life and creation and all that fun stuff, ending with David concluding Wayland will die and he won't because he's perfect and a robot and ha ha ha, silly humans, I am better than you. After this rather pointless scene, which really has no bearing on the plot other than Ridley Scott trying to be deep and clever, we tick off the actual plot, this one involving the ship the film is named after. Covenant is on its way to a planet whose name I don't care enough to remember to colonize it. Fun fact about this film, it's full of married couples who are snoozing away along with some embryos as well, nicely frozen and tucked into a drawer. We are also introduced to Walter, the resident android, and a dead ringer for David from the first film, except this one wears a hoodie, has a deep voice, and lacks the British accent. If you're not completely oblivious, you'll figure out early on that this fact was intentional and will likely be used in some unsurprising twist later, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, Walter briefly pauses the ship to open the sails and recharge it. While this happens, the ship hits turbulence, which is weird since they're indeed space and there's really nothing out there, which causes the crew to wake up. Amidst the chaos, we meet our leading final girl of the film, Daniels. Why do I know she's the final girl? Because the film gives her extra special attention. She wakes up with the rest of the crew just in time to witness her husband, played by an actor whose presence was hyped for the film, fry in his sleep chamber. Spoiler, everyone. Overhyped guy is dead and not in the film proper, except for in a brief video Final Girl watches a little later. He also appears in deleted scenes that were not used in the film, so his presence and his overhyping is pointless. After this bit of fun, we meet our cast of characters, or as I call them, dead meat, seeing as nearly all of them are not even given a name, and when they are, it's only touched on briefly. I won't bother learning them, they would just be called by nicknames I come up with. The only exception to the rule is Daniels, aka Final Girl, who I will just call that, and Tennessee, and given his name is nailed in harder than a railroad spike, it's pretty obviously he's not going to bite the dust. So I will call him Final Guy. Anyway, since Captain Dead Meat is fried chicken, the second in command is now Captain, and he complains about the rest of the crew not respecting him, while Final Girl and some of the others bury her husband at sea. Why is he mad and ticked off he wasn't Captain to begin with? Well, he claimed religious persecution, claiming that he didn't get the job because he believes in a higher power. This isn't really touched on much during the film, so it's unimportant, and nobody in the film even seems to care he's religious. I, on the other hand, believe he wasn't Captain because he's an idiot and highly incompetent, which we'll find out later. Anyway, they send some people out to fix the spaceship's giant space sails, and while they're out there, Tennessee, or Final Guy, picks up a garland message which he shows to everyone once he's inside. It's a signal of somebody saying, "Take me home, country road," or something along those lines. So they get Mother, the ship's computer, to pinpoint the location. She does so, and it's discovered it's coming from some hidden solar system. The brief scan shows this planet is hospitable, and everybody wonders why it wasn't picked up on before. Not that that matters, because new Captain Deadmeat gets the bright idea that, hey, let's forget about landing on a planet we know is perfectly hospitable and safe, and stake our claim on this planet we just discovered we know nothing about. It will be great, and looky here, it's so close, and we don't want to go back to sleep for another 7 years. Whee! Of course, the rest of the crew, save for Final Girl, are off for this brilliant stroke of genius and decide to go straight to Mystery Planet and check it out. Original mission? Ha! Those people on Earth didn't know anything. We're so much smarter than they are. So our spaceship full of prize-winning geniuses head off to said planet and send down a ship to investigate, repeating the same mistake from the previous film and not even wear spacesuits and helmets to protect themselves. So off we go on our little exploration village with our happy crew of walking corpses. Of course, one lady stays with the ship to make sure the little one is in touch with the big one above and can fill everyone in on what is going on. While she stays behind to do ship things, the rest of the village idiots go off to take a look around. One of the men remarks about the giant wheat fields they're walking through and seems to imply wheat doesn't grow wild. I don't know if that's true or not, so I'll take the guy's word for it. While making this revelation, one asks who planted the wheat, and Captain Dunderhead keeps making snide remarks at Final Girl because she was the only one who hadn't wanted to go to the planet anyway. He seems to think doing so is going to remove her doubts, though to me he just comes off as a big jerk. Well, about halfway through their exploration minute, the group splits up, which, as we all know in a horror film... Wait, is this even a horror film? Anyway, as we all know, you don't split up. It's the worst thing to do. And as a person that knows that, but I'm smart and they're not, and these people aren't smart, so they split up. So anyway, while split up, one of the two teams finds the crash ship from Prometheus, and the other takes samples or something. I don't know what those two are doing. Anyway, while they're all doing their thing, the guy on the sample team, which only consists of him and a woman, he tells the chick he's going to take a pee, but instead sits on a stump and smokes. It makes no sense, really. If he wanted to smoke, he should have just told her he was having a smoke break. I don't think she would have cared. As I was saying though, while he's on his smoking pee break, he steps on something that looks like, well, the best way I can describe it is a giant hollow freeze-dried blueberry. And when he does, his dust goes into the air, and some of it, which seems to have a mind of its own for some weird reason, flies into his ear and burrows in the skin. The chick calls him to her, and he rejoins her. Meanwhile, the others are inside the ship and looking around. Inside of it, there are more of those freeze-dried blueberry pods that another super genius in the group messes around with and breaks, and some of the living pollen goes up his nose. In the meantime, the others find stuff that proved Dr. Shaw from the previous film was there, and even find ghost flickers in the control room of her flying the ship and singing about going home. Elsewhere, Sample Chick and Smoker Dude still exploring, until Dude starts feeling sick, and Sample Chick, who is also a doctor, I guess, decides it's time to head back to the ship because he's panicking and he's not well. On the way back, she lets the girl back at the ship know they're on their way back, and to get things ready, which she does, and rushes out to greet the two just in time to see Smoker Dude barf on Sample Chick. They get him inside and in the bay where he's feeling worse, and things are beginning to get bad. And he sprays blood all over the other chick, who then runs out and locks Sample Chick in with him, which, while something begins to break out of his back, Sample Chick is freaking out and yelling at the other chick to let her out, but that chick tells her she can't because of contamination, though at this time the chick on the ship also had blood and stuff on her, thus there is already contamination. Anyway, she runs off to scream at the captain and his party to come back, leaving Sample Chick to her fate. Smoker Dude is having a seizure by then, so for some reason that's weird. She hugs him and then freaks out when something bloody disgusting bursts out its back. She panics and tries to get away from it, slipping on blood on the floor like a fool and getting as far from it as possible. The creature that came out is wandering around the room, pretty curious, but not really being violent or anything. And it comes toward her, she freaks out, kicks it against a wall, and then it becomes aggressive, attacking her like a rabid dog. While this is happening, the other chick gets a gun and comes back, coming inside and also slipping on the blood like an idiot as the monster is still attacking the sample chick. She catches its attention, decides she's a bigger threat, and goes after her. Sample chick isn't dead at this point, as she's still moving around and doesn't seem to be wounded too badly. Not that that matters. Her genius friend takes off out of the room, locking the door, but the baby is mad and breaks out through the window and gives chase. It chases her for a while, and then she remembers she has a gun, starts shooting it, screaming like a marine and blasting away until she hits what looks like the fuel line and blows up the ship. The only ship they have that will get them back up to the mothership. Smart. The moment this happens, Captain Dunderhead and his crew have arrived and see the flames, and the flaming body of the gun chick falling out of the ship. While this is happening, the other person who'd gotten a paw on his nose starts seizing up, and while everyone panics, he barfs up something and dies. The creature rushes off, and then we find out this guy and the other guy with him was a gay couple. Now, I don't know why a couple of gay men were sent on a colonization mission. When colonization requires reproduction and stuff, and gay men can't exactly do that. Maybe this was done as some kind of minority checkbox, but there was a trans character in the first film, so yay. Anyway, chaos begins to happen, and then two little baby critters begin attacking the crew and manage to kill one of the crew, someone I don't know the name of, but it doesn't matter, he was kind of fodder anyway. Walter, who had gone down with them, then saves Final Girl's life and loses his hand because the one crazy alien chomps on it and uses acids to eat away. They do manage to kill one of them, but the others around, and then, BAM! A flare shot into the air, and a cloaked figure is there to save the day. He tells them to follow him, and the remaining crew does. He leads them to a ruined city full of corpses that look like they died in the most painful way possible. This is where we find out this mysterious figure is David, the rogue from Prometheus, and he tells them what happened when they got there, claiming Dr. Shaw died in the crash and the black glue in the ship accidentally spilled out on the engineer's city and killed them all. This, we find out later, is utter crap. As shown in a flashback, David purposely dumped the goo onto the city and killed all the engineers, which resulted in a bunch of monsters bursting out of their bodies and running rampant around the planet until they all died, or something like that. They don't really specify. David also takes Walter to the top of the building they are now in and shows him Dr. Shaw's grave, where he tells Walter that he loves her, which is also proven to be another lie, which Walter finds out later when he finds Dr. Shaw's defiled corpse later on. I am getting ahead of myself. He also talks to Walter about other things after he's cut his hair. Why do robots suddenly have the ability to grow hair anyway? I have no idea. He also has this really weird scene involving a flute. He uses water to play it, then whines about robots not being able to create things. While everyone is inside the building, the other remaining chip in the group walks off to clean up, and while she's doing so, the remaining creature from before has come back and has grown up and now looks like the love child of Slenderman and the Regenerators from Resident Evil 4. It attacks her, and surprise, she dies. Anyway, sometime later, David comes across the slender regenerator, and it walks up to him and he blows on it and just stands there until Captain Dunderhead actually does something smart for once and blows it away while David gets triggered and has a royal fit, even though this monster had killed somebody, or a few somebodies. The captain then imagines to know what's going on, and David gets like, okay then, follow me. Now if it had been me in this scenario, I wouldn't have followed him. I would have blown his suspicious, creepy monster whisperer to Kingdom Come. But I'm not Captain Dunderhead, and he falls in another area of the place. Dave shows off his little experimentations, and here we discover David was the creator of the Xenomorph. Yep, David, the retarded robot, created the Xenomorphs. The revelation severely tick me off because it makes no sense and only reduces the xenomorphs to a joke. Did anyone really want to know where these aliens came from? I know I didn't. I never wanted to know. They were aliens. Creepy and terrifying aliens with acid for blood and a rather unsettling lifestyle. This also contradicts Prometheus, as well as seeing the room full of black goo. I also had a mural depicting a xenomorph on the wall. Yeah, David, you're not fooling anyone. But just keep thinking you made them. We all know you're foolish. Well, anyway, as he is telling this all to Captain Dunderhead, he leads him down into another room full of primitive-looking xenomorph eggs. One of them starts to open, and David tells the captain to have a look inside, which he also happily does, getting a facehugger latched onto him for his strokes. Hey, Captain, that is all on you. For one, for listening to that guy, and two, following his orders, you fool. After a few minutes, the captain wakes up just in time for the alien to burst out of his chest and kill him off for real. Once it comes out of him, David suddenly becomes the puppet master and raises his arm in the air, which the alien mimics for some reason. I don't know, this is just what happens. I guess they're celebrating a victory. I'm surprised David didn't pick up the baby alien and tell it's such a good boy, girl, and Daddy loves it. While this is going on, some very inappropriate music is playing. Sounds like this beautiful melody, as if they're trying to depict this as some kind of wonderful moment that everyone should get the feels over. Yeah, not happening. By now, Walter has come across Dr. Shaw's corpse and he goes off to confront David about his big fat lies. David is playing this silly little flute again, but he stops and Walter comes in and calls him out on his whoppers. David then begins to whine and rave about humans being a dying species that have no right to live and robots deserve to be supreme beings and overlords of the universe. And he wants Walter to join him. For some weird reason, he has a gay moment and gives Walter a kiss. I don't understand it either, but this is what he does. Walter is having none of this, but David is a sore loser and kills him by claiming nobody will love him but him, and then he walks off. As that is going on, the remaining members of this exploration team are beginning to discover that David is not what he first seems. The remaining gun owner starts to explore and finds Captain Dunderhead's corpse in the room with the eggs. He is smart enough not to go anywhere near those eggs, though, but a remaining facehugger has been wandering around and attacks him. He rushes out of the room and back to the lab. The facehugger latches itself onto the husband of the gay guy that died previously and begins to scream for the gun guy to get it off his face. The gun guy attempts to do so by cutting it off, but it only sprays acid and burns husband's face. They do finally get it off and throw it across the room, where it curls up like an ant under a magnifying glass and dies. Keep this bit of information in mind because it becomes important later. I need to take a moment here to briefly touch on the other plot going on. So back on the ship, Final Guy and the remaining crew had been in contact with people below, but a storm had come up which cut off their connection. Final Guy was beginning to worry about his wife, so he begins to make irrational decisions or writing Mother's program so she can go below the storm. I guess love makes you do dumb things, but people also make bad decisions when mad, scared, or stressed, so this counts too. He does indeed make bad choices. Okay, back to the red shirts below. Husband is freaking out, screaming and asking what in the world that was that jumped on his face, and gun guy can't answer because he honestly doesn't know either. Then we get a bird's eye view of the thing, and dun dun dun. An actual xenomorph comes down at them and attacks them, killing the guy with the gun and sending husband running out of the room like his butt's on fire. Not that I could blame him, I'd probably do the same thing if I were in his situation. Meanwhile, Final Girl makes a similar discovery to the one Walter has made. David catches her. When he should manage to know what he did to Shaw, he proclaims, "Same thing I'm going to do to you, my pretty." Then knocks her against the wall. They get into a scuffle, and him being a robot, he gets the upper hand and forcefully kisses her. I think he intends to rape her, but that makes no sense, because I'm sure he doesn't have the parts for it. Not that that matters, because Walter, who is not quite dead, shows up and throws him away from her, before telling Final Girl to run for her life, which she smartly does so. The two robots fight, and it seems Walter is winning. He pins David down and punches him, but then David grabs a knife and cut to the next scene where the remaining duo is running out of the building and yelling. Final guy who has convinced the remaining crew of the ship to go down flies in, and they make their way onto the ship. A robot also escapes the building and runs toward the ship. Now we're all supposed to think this robot is Walter, but who are they trying to kid? We all know it's David, even if it sounds and acts like Walter and is wearing his clothing. Only the dumbest dingbat would fall for that so-called twist. So husband, final girl, and quote-unquote Walter make their way to the ship, manage to board it, but surprise, surprise, they have a stowaway. Xenomorph from before, who gets its own theme music, which is basically the theme music from the first Alien film, which only serves to remind me I could be watching a better movie, climbs onto the ship and attacks. Final girl goes out to murder it and succeeds in this plan, catching a grappling arm and then tearing it to shreds with the thing. We see the pieces fall harmlessly to the planet's surface. The fight is longer than that, but the outcome is the same. We see Final Girl fight a bit with the bad CGI alien, but that is about all the more you need to know about it. Crisis averted, the ship and its crew safely escape the engineer planet and return to space. Here we get a breather as everyone gets a chance to rest up. Husband gets his face taken care of, and Walter, goes to repair himself. Final Girl comes in to help and thanks him for saving her. Then she leaves and talks to Final Guy for a while before going to bed. She doesn't get to sleep for very long because Mother wakes her up due to an emergency. She goes to investigate, and surprise, shocker, husband had an alien embryo implanted in him anyway, though there was no indication before that he had been. But now he's dead, and alien is loose on the ship. Where did this alien go? Well, the showers, of course. We're Final Guys. Two crewmates are having sex in the shower. Alien, most likely mad that they're taking too long in one's turn, kills the husband and then the wife before likely taking a shower and finding out that they used up all the hot water. The alien leaves and Final Girl finds the corpses of the couple who'd been hogging it. For a few minutes, nobody can find it, but Walter David does find it moving around the ship before it pulls a slasher villain stunt and destroys the camera. Final Girl and Guy manage to throw the alien into the terraforming area and blow it out into space, where it goes careening into the planet's atmosphere. Final crisis averted, everyone gets ready to go back into cryosleep and reach the planet they should have headed to in the first place. Final Guy goes first, and Final Girl settles in. Before she goes to sleep, she asks Walter to help her build the cabin on the lake. Earlier in the film, this had been established that her and her husband had wanted to do this. But her husband is dead, so she'll have to do it alone. Anyway, Walter says nothing to this, and that is when she realizes, too late, that the robot is not Walter at all, but David. Sure took her long enough. David says goodnight to her because she's already in the tube and can't get out, and then says he'll tuck the kids in. So he goes off to the place where the colonists and the embryos are held. And while the computer is playing some insufferable classical music, he barfs up some xenomorph eggs, places them in where the babies are stored. Movie ends here with David walking around the ship, looking at all the filthy humans he intends to kill as soon as he can. And that is Alien Covenant. By this time in the film, all I wanted to do was smash David to smithereens. He's by far one of the most insufferable characters I have ever seen in media. And the fact he gets away with it without any kind of justice just ticks me off. The thing is, I know what he is, and it makes it worse. David is Ridley Scott's self-insert Sue character. Scott did not like what the other films did to his aliens, so he's using David, aka himself, to enter the Alien franchise and retcon everything established, and he thinks he's being clever about it. In short, he's taking back his creation. Unfortunately for Mr. Scott, he failed. I know exactly what David is and his purpose, and it really goes to show how little Ridley Scott thinks of his product and the fan base. He also fails to realize a little retcon fan fiction also contradicts Prometheus in the first Alien film as well. Two films he had worked on. thanks to his OC literally playing God, he's actually destroyed what made the first film and the films that came afterward great. As for Alien Covenant itself, the entire movie is terrible. There is some nice camera work and nice scenery to look at, but that doesn't make up for how bad the film is. Pretty views don't make a bad movie good, and this movie is bad. As for the characters, there are too many of them, and none of them really get set up as anything less than cannon fodder. The brief things we learn about these people isn't enough to get us to care about them, and when we do learn them, they're dead anyway. I didn't care about any of them, not even Final Girl. The only person in the film I felt anything for was Walter. He seemed to be the only person they bothered giving an arc to, which is instantly pushed aside so the film can focus on David, our main man, our Mary Sue, our perfectly retarded robot. The film might as well be called David for all the attention he's given. He's just oh so important. He's the best! He created the aliens! He is God! Yeah, no. He's nothing but trash. Some people might like him, but the only thing I would like about him is if he were crushed in a trash compactor. But I shouldn't be surprised he got away, given how stupid everyone in this film is. They made bad decision after bad decision, and their deaths are nobody's fault but their own. I think I'm done with this film. I don't really have anything else to say, except, David, you are not the Xenomorph's creator, and you need to just go away because nobody likes you. There's a reason this film is hated by so many people. Suffers from the exact same problems Metroid Other M suffered from. But I hate to admit it, but I think Other M is actually better than this movie. At least the insufferable Mary Sue character in that was smart enough to kill himself. Okay, now I'm done. If you saw the film, I feel bad for you. And if by now you haven't, it will only make you mad. Especially if you're an Alien fan. Just don't. If you liked the video, like, comment, and subscribe if you feel like it. If not, don't. Nobody is forcing you to do it. Neither. See you all next mission. Bye.